Tipton, we will start with you.
Joel, I wonder how you would assess the players' mood, their reaction to what happened to Georgia losing on the last second shot. Is there anger, resolve? How would you describe it?
I think it goes in phases. You know, when you lose a game, you have a tough game. I think that there's um, the anger, there's the disappointment that sets in initially. Um, and the same thing for coaches, probably the same thing for fans. And our guys are having to continue with their resolve. They're having to continue with a fighting mentality of getting better. Of us being an inexperienced team, the only way you become experienced is to go through things like we went through the other night, or seasons, or games, or practices that we've gone through. So I think our guys are understanding where we are, and the biggest thing that we've got to do is continue to, have a clear mental picture, of where we want to go, both individually, but also as a team. And, when you then settle in after the game and take a look at the body of work and not the last play, you then see and get a bigger picture of what the game was, as opposed to just one play or the last 2 minutes.
What do you think the ceiling is for this team?
Well, I think that we don't know that. I think as we sit here on January 22nd, our story is still being written, individually as well as a team. And that's why it's a story, and it's a season. It's not one game. It's not a collection of games. It's an entire season of games. And our job as coaches is to continue to keep our guys working towards becoming a better version of themselves, with the understanding that our team can become a better version when our individuals are at their best. So for us, it's like I said, it's daily improvement, with the understanding that it's a process, and for all of us, it's keeping our heads down and going to work.
Thanks.
Kyle Tucker, we'll go to you next.
Joel, obviously that was a stinging loss, but the one pretty clear positive the other night was BJ's kind of response to taking a step back out of the starting lineup and playing probably his best game for you all. I know I can't remember which of the coaches was on here a while back mentioning him and as one of the hardest working guys, that he kind of kept his nose down, and however much he'd been struggling, he was working every day towards getting better. What have you seen in him as he struggled, and what kind of encouragement did you all take from what he did the other night?
I think for BJ, as much as it is for all of our guys, he's a great kid who has extreme talent. He's a young guy who has had a rough start, but like I said, I mean, his story is still being written, and there's another, few lines or chapter that gets to be written today, and he's a young guy that is figuring it out. It's why you go to college. It's why you come to Kentucky. You come to be challenged. You come here to work. You come here to test yourself against elite competition, to be coached by a staff of people that are going to spend time with you, that are going to develop relationships with you, that are going to be with you when things are great, when things are not great. And BJ's taken full advantage of that. He's taken advantage of an experienced former head coach like Bruiser Flint. He's taken advantage of one of the top young assistant coaches in the country in Jay Lucas. He spent time with an experienced coach who's known John Calipari, who's a Hall of Fame coach like John Robick. He spent time with me. So BJ is doing everything that he can to put himself in a better place mentally, as well as, when he steps on the court for practice. He had a great couple practices last week. I don't think anyone was surprised that he played as well as he did at Georgia. So the key now is to continue to work towards that.
Player Vaught, we'll go to you.
Joe, I was wondering if you could just kind of fill me in on the impact of this season. Is that when you talk to recruits, do they ask you questions? Do you bring it up? How do you deal with that when you're recruiting now?
I think the biggest thing in recruiting is getting to know those individuals. That's the key. I think when we're talking recruiting, you're talking about their season. You're talking about their feelings. You're talking about their dreams, what they want out of their experience at the University of Kentucky and coming to play for a Hall of Fame coach with a staff that's going to be with you, that's going to challenge you, that's going to love you. You're going to be on the greatest stage of college basketball, playing in front of the greatest fans that is out there in our sport. So for us, I think that nothing has really changed, whether we were 13-0 or 0-0 or whatever. We have a great product here, and our thing is to continue to communicate that to families, to people that want to come here, that want to be built different, that want to be on the greatest stage, to come to a world-class university and challenge themselves every day. So it's more about, I think, when you're recruiting the individual, the family, and you get to the bottom of who they want to become.
And Spencer, I'll come to you, then Jerry, I'll circle back.
Joel, at a place like Kentucky where the pressure is so high and a team that's 4-9, is the term playing desperate, is that a bad thing? Do you just have to take it a day by day, or do you want these kids to play desperate but just play the right way?
Ken, we talk about playing desperate every single day. I've been here 7 years, and that's been something that we've talked about from the first second that we are with our young people. You've got to play desperate in basketball. You have to play confident. You have to play desperate. It has to mean more to you than it does to anyone else. I think we coach with desperation. This is important to us. It's important to our staff. It's important to our head coach. It's important to our players. It's important to the players that have played here in the past. And I think if you were to ask each one of them, they would say that we talked about being desperate. If this is what you want to do for your profession, whether you're a coach or whether you're a player, you have to be desperate. You have to come in every single day with that sense that this is the most important day of my life, and I have to get better. Whether it's 1%, 2%, you can control that. You can control your attitude when you wake up. Are you listening to how you feel, or are you talking to yourself about how you feel about our season, whether you're 13-0 or 4-9? This is about coming in today and getting better. This is about challenging myself. This is about challenging my teammates. It's about being coachable. It's about listening to our head coach. And when you do that and you have that sense of desperation, good things are going to happen.
Jerry, go back to you.
Joel, in LSU, you're playing a team that lost by 30 in its last game. How do you expect that to impact their play, their performance?
I don't know. Jerry, I know that I've been in our practices this week in preparation for Georgia, and was in practice yesterday for our guys. And I know that we have a group that's excited to play, much like every single game that we have. We're focused on ourselves. I know that Will and his staff are coaching their team to become better as well. But it's LSU's a strong opponent. And they're going to come in and give us their best shot, I know, and we'll be ready.
How about Cam Thomas? What sort of challenge? You guys have faced a lot of very good players, obviously. How do you assess the challenge he presents?
I think he's an elite scorer who can score at all three levels. He's very confident, very aggressive on the offensive end, and he presents, an extreme challenge the second the ball goes from our possession to theirs. And that's something that you've got to be alert. You've got to be ready. We've got to be ready. It's not a one-person assignment. It's a collective group in transition where it starts. And then as you get into the half court, you've got to be ready. We've got to be ready. Everybody has a responsibility. And I think for the most part, I think when you're watching us play defense, I think we're doing a good job. You just got to figure out how we're going to score some points.
Larry, I think we'll circle back to you. I think you had another question.
Joe, after the game Wednesday, Keon talked about that you got pushed around, and that an emphasis going into the game was to get 50-50 balls, and yet you didn't do that. How do you correct those things, or can you correct toughness and going after 50-50 balls?
I think you can look at it a couple different ways, Larry. I think that there's the one school of thought that says, all right, we're going to come in today and we're going to roll the ball out and watch kids dive on the floor and knock each other over and scream and yell. And then we're going to put a rim up on the, above the rim that forces you to miss. And we're just going to watch them go bash into each other and yell at them and scream at them. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, our players executing. Oftentimes you don't get 50-50 balls because maybe you're not in the right spot defensively. Maybe you're not on your toes. Maybe you're not bouncing. Maybe you're not engaged. Part of those 50-50 balls is maybe the half a second or 2 seconds before the shot was taken. So now you're in a bad position to even come up with a rebound, come up with a 50-50 ball, come up with the right angle to go and what we would say crack up or crack down. Maybe you're not paying attention to see that your teammate went to go block a shot. So now as a guard, you're supposed to go in and cover for his man. That happens sometimes. As a big man, like you said, maybe you're too worried about your man and there's a guard driving and you don't go to block the shot on time. So you miss the block, they get the shot off, and now we're in a difficult rotation. So it's, there's a lot of different things that go into it. And I think for us, what we're trying to do is spend time with our guys, going over the film, showing them the entire possession, as opposed to just the 50-50 ball that everyone kind of points to. So for us, it's just taking that time and teaching and spending time with these guys to get down to the bottom of why we are where we are, whether it's a 50-50 ball, whether it's our offensive execution. That's where you got to go at this point.
Thanks.
Jerry, what's the final one?
Thanks. I promise this is my only one. I'm wondering, Joel, how you feel about Brandon had struggled some as a starter. You bring him off the bench at Georgia. He's much more productive. Dante had been very good off the bench, and he struggled as a starter. So how does the coaching 101 textbook say to handle something like that?
Well, if you have that book, if you could send it over, I'll put my address in the chat after this, and you could shoot that over, because I don't know that the coaching 101 manual that I have tells you how to handle a pandemic, how to handle injuries, how to handle everything that we're going through this year. So if it's in the archives over there at the Herald Leader, you shoot that right over. I tell you. And if there's something in there about substitution patterns, let me know. But I think with Coach Cal, what he's done with this group is amazing in terms of keeping the positive attitude, of keeping our guys on their toes. When you look at the different starting lineups, I think it's, what is it, 7 that we've had? We've had 7 now, different starting lineups. I think we're looking for different things. I think that we're, trying to put our players in the best position for them to feel success. I think that you talked about Devin Askew, brought him off the bench a little bit, had him take a step back earlier. You've talked about getting Dante some more minutes, maybe playing through some mistakes, and then brought him off the bench. But he comes to coach yesterday and says, maybe I feel better coming off the bench. All right, BJ started, what was it, 12 games and then came off the bench for one and played really well. But does that have anything to do with him starting, or does it have to do with, hey, look, his story is starting to change right now. He's got 12 games of experience under his belt. He's practicing with more confidence. So I'm not sure that starting, not starting. I mean, there's also guys that start the second half. I think that's a thing in the coaching 100 manual that I have. You know, you have to put a starting lineup out there for the second half as well as the first. I think for us, with Coach Cal, with what he's doing, he's continuing to work with our guys. He's having individual meetings. He's spending time, just like, you know, Coach Bruiser, Jay, myself, you know, our entire staff is working with these guys to figure out, you know, hey, how can we help? I think that's the biggest thing when you coach young people, to sit down, and we oftentimes tell them, hey, you know, what to do. Oftentimes you got to say, hey, how can I help you? And there's not anybody better at our business of doing that than John Calipari. And in a year like this, I mean, it's been amazing to watch. I still consider myself a young assistant, you know, how he handles a season like this. And, you know, he's been extremely positive with this group. He's been extremely, you know, caring with them, spending extra time with them. And like I said, our story is continuing to be written.